Hi, my name is Danny Fleming of the MA Properties team. Today's topic is buyer's want. What do I mean by that? Well, what do buyers want when they're looking for a home to buy? And since this is Selling Essentials, figured it's as good a time as any to mention this. What do buyers want? Well, first off, if they're looking in your town, they've already worked out one of the three main criteria that buyers use to define what town they're interested in looking at. So maybe if I give that as a bit of a preface to start with. A buyer chooses a town based on three criteria. One, how strong is the school system? Two is how much of a commute is it? What's the commute distance to Boston? And the third one is how much house can they buy for the money? So what do I mean by all of those things? Well, let's say a buyer is looking for a great school system and they want to be sort of a relatively decent commute into Boston. Let's talk about Lexington. Lexington has a fantastic school system, great commute into Boston. If a buyer is going to be looking in Lexington, they're probably going to have to compromise a little bit on how much house they can buy for their money. Because when you compare it to, say, Waltham, which shares a town line, you compare it to Waltham. Waltham doesn't have a fantastic school system at the moment, still the same commute distance to Boston, and they don't need to really compromise on how much house you can buy for the money, because you can buy a lot more in Waltham than you can in Lexington because of the difference in school system. Now, let's talk about Acton, for instance. Acton has a fantastic school system. You can buy a lot of house for your money in Acton, but what you're compromising on there, if a buyer is choosing that town, is the commute distance into Boston. It's not going to be as favorable as, say, Lexington. So a buyer is typically having to weigh up what they're willing to compromise on to determine what town they're looking at. So let's say they've already worked that out and they're looking in your town. So now, what are the key things that buyers want when they're looking for a home? The large majority of buyers, and to get the highest price for your home, it's important it's important to have your home attractive to the largest buyer pool. The largest buyer pool you possibly can. And the largest buyer pool are looking for a move-in ready home. There's only probably maybe 10% of buyers who are willing to look for a home that needs some work. That's really fair to say. So from the perspective of the largest majority of buyers, they want a move-in ready home. What do we mean by move-in ready? I don't mean they're looking for a home that's been renovated. I don't mean that. What I do mean is a home that feels fresh and clean. And it depends again on the price point of the home. It's a different thing of what buyers want if we're talking about 2.5 million as opposed to 700,000. So it's a different set of things. But the largest majority of homes, on average in the areas around where we are, the average price point, the average sale price of a home is under 1.5. So I'm going to concentrate on that sort of area, because that's the largest majority of buyers and the largest majority of homes that are sold. So the buyers, it doesn't matter if a bathroom is dated. Let's say it's got the old pink tiles or the old green tiles or the old tiles up against, on the half walls. there's so much we can do to a bathroom to update it that doesn't mean renovating it. Paint. Paint is fantastic. Gives you the highest return on investment if you as a seller do that to a home. Because if a buyer walks into the bathroom and they see fresh paint, whether it be on the walls and also on the tiles, they'll forgive the older fixtures. They'll forgive them because it makes them feel that they can use it from day one, and they'll think about renovating the bathroom in the future. If you've got a bathroom that has cabinets that, has a cabinet that has the swirly pattern laminate on it and the older tiles, the pinks, the purples, the blues, the greens, that type of thing, or you've got wallpaper on the walls, the buyers immediately think when they walk into that bathroom, I've got to renovate this bathroom. And buyers don't typically, because they may be moving from out of state, they may be moving into their first home, they may be moving from upsizing or downsizing. Typically, most buyers don't want to be having to do work in a home when they first move in. And if a home needs work, even if it's just paint, they're going to discount how much they're going to pay for your home purely and simply because it needs some work to be done. One is they don't know how much it would cost. I once had a buyer walk into a home that had wallpaper on the living room and dining room walls, and the buyer was sort of saying, was looking concerned about it. And I chatted to the buyer and said, well, this is really easy, to take off. This is really easy. And the buyer was looking at it and sort of said, yeah, but to remove this wallpaper, it'd probably cost me about $20,000 to do. And I said, no, easily under $2,000. And the buyer looked at me and said, no, you're just trying to sell me the home. So if a buyer is often inflates the cost of how much things will cost to do, and they're going to take that money off what they're going to offer you for the home. So a buyer wants move-in ready. It doesn't need to be updated, doesn't need to be renovated. It just wants to be clean and fresh. And the fresh is paint. The clean is often paint. It's or getting a cleaner in to see the home, to work on the home prior to coming on the market. Same with carpets. You don't necessarily need to replace the carpets, just steam clean them. Get them steam cleaned so that the buyer walks in and thinks, oh wow, I could just unpack my suitcases. I don't need to do anything to this home. I can see things that I would like to do in the next few years. I don't need to do them now. That will always get you the highest price. And some work outside. The buyers want a home to feel home, as though it's home. It's not an overgrown, bundle of mess. An overgrown mess, I can't remember the phrase. Hot mess, an overgrown hot mess. That's what I wanted to say. They don't want it to be an overgrown hot mess. It just might be just doing some weeding and putting some mulch down in the front of the home. You don't need to do the whole home because the buyers will make their opinion of how the home feels to them as they're walking in the door. They also want a large house. And what I mean by a large house is your house size. But depending on how much furniture you've got in your home, it will feel smaller or larger than what it actually is. So doing some staging, some decluttering, some moving furniture, and we can help with that. But if a buyer walks into a home and there's not much furniture in the home, they feel like it's bigger than what it is. And often the furniture makes a difference. If a buyer can walk in and just sort of, oh, I'd like to live here. That's huge. Um, Buyers want, they also want, obviously the things that you can't fix, like your location, backing onto a highway, things like this, you can't fix those. But making everything else appealing about the home is key, because if a buyer walks in the door, oh, and also they want a realistic price. Don't overprice. You're going to lose all of those buyers that are serious buyers right now. You're going to lose them by overpricing. A lot of sellers are under the misunderstanding that if a buyer doesn't like the price of a home, they'll make an offer anyway, and they'll make a lower offer. They don't. They just don't. They will come in and see the home, and they'll walk away and they'll dismiss the home. They might make an offer 4 months later, and you may have adjusted your price twice since when it came on the market, but now the buyers are looking at the price that you're on, and it's now enough to the adjustment, it was enough to make them think, I wonder if we should reconsider that home again. But they know it's been on the market for a long time, so they're going to come in with an offer that's well below the current asking price as well. You will lose the serious buyers by overpricing your home. So buyer wants a realistically priced home, and they will make an offer the first weekend it's on the market. Buyer wants, it's interesting, when we talk about clutter or organization, let's talk about organization a little bit, because that comes with decluttering. You might want to stack, you've got lots and lots of belongings, you need to do advanced packing anyway, so do it now before the home comes on the market. It's okay if you have 30 odd boxes stored in the basement. It's okay. If they're stored in an organized fashion, the buyers don't even bat an eyelid at. If the belongings that you want to take with you are piled higgledy-piggledy, and this happens, if they're piled higgledy-piggledy in the middle of a room or around the corners or, against the walls, but just higgledy-piggledy, what the buyers see is a disorganized home, and mentally they're thinking, these sellers don't know whether they're coming or going. I bet if something broke in this home, they may not even know that it's broken, or I bet they won't have even fixed it. So it sets a psychological trigger for them that the seller doesn't look after their home. If everything is organized, sometimes we see some sellers that label things and have things in their place, and it's obvious that it's been how it has been for forever. That gives buyers warm and fuzzies, because they see an organized mind. They see sellers that are taking care of their home and everything is in its place. So I know I've gone, there's so much to talk about on this topic, just so much to talk about. It's hard to be concise and cover everything. So if you want to ask more questions or you want to chat more about this,